USC head football coach Steve Spurrier in his 2012 proposal to pay college athletes a stipend of more than $2,000 in addition to their scholarships said, "We think they need more and deserve more. It's as simple as that." He believes they need this stipend to provide extra money for living expenses, academic expenses, and game-related expenses. Spurrier makes his claim based on the fact that these athletes bring in unbelievable amounts of money. Billions, he claims. So these athletes in revenue-producing sports, mainly football and men's basketball, deserve more. Proposals such as this one have sparked a lot of debate with the National Collegiate Athletic Association, most commonly known as the NCAA. The nonprofit organization that regulates college athletics has so far been unwilling to budge on its pay-for-play position, which has been amateurism. I'm a Spurrier fan and always have been, but I disagree with him on this point. I believe in the college athletic system. I believe in the college athletic system and the idea of amateurism. I believe in the passion for the game and the privilege of playing for your school. Like Ekal Yankas states in his article, Why NCAA Athletes Shouldn't Be Paid, featured in last October's New Yorker magazine, he says, "I recognize the value of sports as a part of education, not the other way around. Over the course of the next few minutes, I am going to try to convince you that student athletes should be just that, student athletes. They don't need or deserve an annual paycheck along with all the money and benefits that are included with their scholarships and experience. They are getting to do what they love while receiving an education and preparation for a professional career, and I'm not just talking about one in sports."
Division I student athletes have higher SAT and ACT scores than college-bound students.
The number of us receiving diplomas
is at an all-time high.
African American males who are student athletes
are 10% more likely to graduate.
Still think we're just a bunch of dumb jocks?
You need to do your homework.
There are over 400,000 NCAA student athletes, and just about all of us will be going pro in something other than sports.
Don't get me wrong, I can see some rationale on the other side of this argument. Proponents for pay-for-play have some compelling points, such as generating big money and lots of exposure and publicity for their schools. But is it the athletic programs, the sports events, the teams that generate the money, or is it the individual athletes themselves? If one lands on the answer that it is the athletes and that they should be paid individually, typically another justification of this stipend is that these athletes spend a great deal of time in practice, team meetings, travel, and other team-related experience, leaving no time for them to do work or job that could help them cover extra expenses, something that typical college students are able to do. So they must rely on what is covered in their scholarship and what their families can afford to give them. In addition, proponents of paying college athletes argue that the NCAA and these colleges who profit from these players are actually exploiting the college athletes, taking in large sums of money and giving them nothing back in return. And finally, those in favor of pay-for-play argue that if the NCAA doesn't change its stance on the issue, the best players will just go pro and college athletics will suffer in quality. I say, well, let it then. If a player is good enough to go pro and opts to do that, then let him. Then he is a professional. It's his job and he should be paid. At the college level, he is a student athlete. Horace Mitchell is the president of California State University and sits on the NCAA Division I Board of Directors, and he said, "Students are not professional athletes who are paid salaries and incentives for a career in sports. Student athletes are amateurs who choose to participate in intercollegiate athletics as a part of their educational experience. They are students receiving access to a college education through their participation in sports. Forced they earn scholarships to pay tuition, fees, room and board, and other allowable expenses. Collegiate sports is not a career or a profession. It is students' vehicle to a higher education degree. Brown University professor of history and urban studies Howard Chudikoff agrees and states, remunerating, which means paying, I looked it up, remunerating these athletes make them employees, not students. It's also true that not all college coaches agree with Spurrier and those who want to start paying college athletes. Miami coach Mark Richt said, I don't think we can get into pay for play because if we do, they're not amateur athletes anymore, are they? Furthermore, there is no fair way to pay college athletes. Longtime University of Georgia women's basketball coach Andy Landers says, who do you pay then? Do you pay the sports that make the money or the sports that don't make money? Do you pay everybody? I can add more questions to this list. Do you pay all the players on the team, even those who sit the bench? They practice the same amount of time. The students on the equestrian team are just as committed as those football players in the national championship game covered on primetime TV, aren't they? Do they get paid the same? And what about all the small schools? Kieran McCauley makes a good point in her article, College Athletes Shouldn't Be Paid. She asks, why shouldn't athletes in Division II and Division III schools be paid the same if they put in the same amount of time to practice and travel and play games? These arguments about paying athletes are mostly aimed at those high-profile Division I teams, and even then, mostly football and men's basketball, and that makes it unfair and impossible to regulate. Vanderbilt's football coach James Franklin says, yeah, it's easy to just talk about football doing it, but if you're going to do it, you can't just do it for football and basketball. You have to do it for all the sports, and it can't just be for the schools in the SEC. It has to be all over the country. On top of that, NCAA President Mark Emmert stated that if college athletes were to start getting paid, many schools would leave Division I sports, and the universities that stayed in Division I would have to start cutting other, less popular sports to be able to afford salaries. And that's just not fair at all. However, the reality is that a financial analysis done in 2013 showed that only 23 out of 228 Division I schools were operating in the black and had the money to pay a college athlete. It's not just unfair, it's not even really possible. Finally, and most importantly, I think, we can argue that these athletes are being compensated for their talents and time and dedication in some very real, long-lasting ways. Most are receiving a tuition, usually including meals, housing, travel, medical care, professional level coaching, often clothes and shoes, as well as playing a game they love on the next level. And if they do what they're supposed to do in the classroom, a college degree, and training, and a foundation for their future. As a junior staring down college admissions and tuition bills, it sounds like a pretty good deal to me. In Dave Anderson's list of 10 reasons college athletes should not be paid, he points out that at Ohio State, which is one of the biggest and most well-known football programs in the nation, the average in-state tuition at the university is just over $10,000 a year. Yet, the average athletic scholarship is $17,856 for male athletes. In addition, former college and MLB baseball player and opponent to the argument to pay players in college, John Rocker, states that college athletes today have never had it better. With major universities like Ohio State, Auburn, Georgia, Michigan, Texas, and Notre Dame investing tens of millions of dollars into new student athlete centers and facilities to pamper these 18 to 22-year-olds with a lifestyle that was once suited for royalty. On the other hand, Rocker points out the statistic that out of 20 million students who attend college annually, 60% must borrow money to attend. Translation being, most college graduates will leave college with a diploma and the financial burden of college debt. Tell the graduates with crushing student loans that a full scholarship is a payment. Kieran McCauley's position is similar. She says, athletic scholarships are their compensation and a fair one at that. Essentially, they receive a free education and in return, they represent the school in a certain sport. College athletes don't have to worry about student loans, paying for textbooks, the cost of on-campus living and meal plans. According to the Institute for College Access and Success in the state of Pennsylvania, 71% of students leave a public four-year institution or private nonprofit four-year institution in debt. The average debt is $32,528. That is an enormous burden for kids who may or may not have a job awaiting them upon graduation. People get caught up that all this money is being made and the college athletes are completely exploited. I wouldn't label earning a college education exploitation. I couldn't agree more. Playing in college is an opportunity millions of young athletes dream of and never achieve. And getting a college education is also a dream of many young people that can never afford it. Sure, these athletes are deserving, and I believe they are getting what they deserve. A college education, a jump start on a career, and a rare opportunity to do something